This recording is being done, so I just want to make sure everybody's aware. And anyhow, coming back to the introduction, the first person is from Pace University, Professor Aiello-Lammens. He is a graduate program co-director. Melanie Bauer is joining us from University of Michigan. Katie Fraioli is from Rubenstein, Vermont. And I'm trying to look for a fourth participant from Georgetown. Anyhow, I will let Professor Aiello-Lammens start if you have a screen share. And I'll ask everybody to kind of give maybe a quick introduction about their schools, the programs, and then we'll take question and answers. For participants in the audience, please feel free to type your questions in the chat. I'll monitor it. Thank you.
So I got to start.
Please, if you don't mind.
Guess I don't have an option now. I did put together a little presentation, so let me just do that. I'll keep it really short, or I'll try to. So can you guys see the normal view? You're not seeing presenter view or anything like that, right?
No, we can see you.
Okay, good. So yeah, I'm from Pace University. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'm from Pace University. I'm in the Department of Environmental Studies and Science, and Pace is in Westchester, New York, and New York City, New York. So kind of urban. Just very brief background about Pace. We're about a little older than 100 years old. We have over 75 different graduate programs, 2 locations, fairly robust alumni network, and quite a few international students who come to our institution as well, and a fair amount of merit scholarship for our graduate programs. I do want to emphasize, though, that our graduate programs are primarily master's programs. We have a few doctoral programs, but especially within the environmental field, our programs are masters, and I'll briefly mention our School of Law at the end as well. So in our department, we have, as any environmental studies and science department is, it's mostly cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary, everyone from sociologists like Dr. Dupuy to ecologists like myself, or biochemists and ecological chemists like Dr. Palta, across the board here. So this is our faculty. What I want to just highlight is our Master's in Environmental Science and Policy program. And I think for students thinking about potentially going into graduate school, you have quite a few things to think about. Do you go for a master's? Do you go for a PhD? Do you go for an MS, an MA? Do you go for a master's in environmental science or a master's in policy or studies? Our institution has taken the approach where we are doing an MS in environmental science and policy, really with the focus of integrating a curriculum that is science, policy and law, communication skills, and advocacy. So we want our students who are scientists, who are science-oriented, coming out, also being able to advocate. And we want our students who are policy-oriented also to be coming out with science knowledge, deep science knowledge. So I'm just going to really briefly show you that we have a science track, so you can come in and focus mostly on science courses. And this really focuses on skills to collect and analyze data and apply those data to solve environmental problems. That's the track. We don't have to go through it, but suffice it to say, a lot of quantitative classes. And our students can do a master's thesis, or they can do a capstone. Here are some examples of theses of students focusing on things like aquatic invasive species or urbanization and the impacts on carnivores. We also have a policy track. Now, the policy track is interesting because we bring in some requirements from the law school. PACE has currently the #1 program in environmental law, so we try and emphasize that relationship when we can. As you can see here, we have electives and courses that are more advocacy, policy, and law-based. Again, I just want to point out that some of these courses are taken by both the science and policy students. So policy, advocacy are required for both tracks. And then for our externship, we place our students in different environmental organizations in our region with the goal of working for an entire semester on an independently setup project. And skip over that. We do also have our students engage in policy. Some of our students get registered as lobbyists and go to New York State and lobby the state for various issues. Our placement generally tends to be regionally at first, and then our students move out from our region as they advance their careers. As I said, I just want to briefly mention our other schools. So PACE Environmental Law is housed at the Elizabeth Haub School of Law. That's, again, the #1 environmental law school in the country. And we have a pretty close relationship with that institution. And then our public administration and increasingly our School of Computer Science and actually our business school is getting involved now, are all involved in expanding our environmental course offerings. And I think I'll end it there. Hopefully I stayed under 5 minutes, Nirav, and maybe set everybody else up for what they'll do and answer questions at the end.
Thank you so much for that. Next up, we have Melanie Bauer from University of Michigan, representing SEAS, which is the School for Environment and Sustainability.
All right. Same thing, everyone can see just my title screen and not my presenter notes. Hi, everybody. My name is Melanie Bauer. I said I'm the recruiting and admissions manager here at University of Michigan School for Environment and Sustainability, also known as SEAS. Today, I'm going to share a couple of quick things with you about our program, and then I'm just going to jump into some best practices when it comes to applying for grad school and looking for grad school, making your decisions. University of Michigan is a top-rated public research institution. SEAS is one of the 19 schools and colleges within the University of Michigan. We're located up in Ann Arbor, Michigan, consistently voted one of the top 10 college towns in the country. Our main graduate degrees are our Master of Science degree in Environment and Sustainability and our Masters of Landscape Architecture. We also have fully funded PhD programs. There's no specific degree area required to apply or be admitted. Currently, we have students from over 100 different undergraduate majors. This is a quick look at our largest program, our Master of Science in Environment and Sustainability. Students have a common core, but then they actually apply into and take sometimes more than one specialization. Our biggest ones and most popular tend to be ecosystem science and management, environmental justice, environmental policy and planning, and sustainable systems. Then all of our master students complete a capstone project. This can be a traditional thesis or a real world project with a company that partners with us. Something I would mention today that's really important on your graduate journey is whether or not you want to pursue a dual degree program. We see about 1/3 of our students actually take and pursue a formal degree partnership with programs such as engineering, business, urban regional planning, and law. So I'd really consider, if you are interested in something like this, that you're looking at institutions that can support that for you. A couple of quick stats about our diverse community. Our 2023 class was about 60-40 female to male. We have about 1/3 of our incoming classes are from international populations, as well as 17% being from designated underrepresented minorities. Average age of our students is actually about 26. As you can imagine, we have a vast alumni network here at University of Michigan. That's also true for our SEAS alumni network that's very engaged with our each other and our career services team. That is also something that I'd say is important if you are looking for career support. We have a full in-house career support team that works with you on your career goals, whether that's offering opportunities with resume building, internships, career fairs virtually and in person. So I just want to share a couple of quick things when you're looking at grad school. I know I'm not going to read you all of these things. I want to point out a couple of points. It's really important to research your faculty. Our faculty is huge and deep. I can't go into it today. That's something we could spend a whole hour on together. It's really important that you look at their experience and past in research and current research projects. It gives you a great window into any program and what you're getting into. Also be really cognizant of your admissions requirements and deadlines. So this is going to be so different between different institutions and even within a university. Dual degrees is a great example of this. You can require 2 full applications with different priority or funding deadlines, overall admissions requirements, and et cetera. So as you're looking, make sure you understand what priority deadlines look like for you. like I mentioned too, you'll always want to look at any full service career teams. Transparency with job placement, salaries, and general services to students and alumni is really important, especially in this industry. Couple other quick points I want to make. References are a big deal. So when you look for folks to choose from, make sure you maintain that contact information as you move from institution to institution. Also, no letters of recommendation are changing in how they're being collected. It's not just you get one letter and that letter can be used over and over. Ours are electronic, so you're going to elect who your reference, and we're going to send that to them. You're never going to see those letters. You're never going to see that content. So make sure that you're comfortable with who you're selecting as a reference. And if you have any hesitation at all, do not use that person as a reference. The letters of recommendation I see as an admissions counselor, they're almost all exceptional. So make sure you're selecting very strong individuals who can speak the best to your experience and what you're like in a classroom and potentially as a graduate student. Another thing I want to just say real quick, there's a lot of fear around transcripts. Transcripts are not the most important thing when you're looking at a student. We here at University of Michigan do a whole student approach when it comes to holistic admissions. It's very common to see an adjustment period in an undergraduate student that the first couple of years were really difficult and maybe their grades went back up. All we're looking at is perseverance. If there is something that you are feeling vulnerable about, you really want to address that with your admissions counselors or in your essays, because at the end of the day, I want to know that you can be successful here in a graduate program. So we're looking for people that can persevere and can be a great fit for our university. Another thing I see all the time, this is all small stuff. If you're going to use a university email address, please know that if that's going to get turned off when you leave an institution. We tend to use those same touch points from a communication standpoint, and a lot of times communication will get lost because you're using an email address that has been shut off. Very small things. I think that's all I want to share today. Network early, often ask questions. As an admissions counselor, I just want to know what's going on. So if you have problems and you have needs, the best thing you can do is ask questions and ask for faculty, ask to talk to current students. Never feel like you can't approach us with any specific need. We're here to support you as well. So just remember to reach out early and often and take advantage of any opportunity you can to see all the graduate schools that you're interested in. Fall is a great time to do that. There's always a lot of recruiting that's going on. So if you need any more information, you can find us at cs.umich.edu. Our application's open for fall 2025, August 1st.
Thank you for that. Next up, we have Professor Carfagno from Georgetown University, representing Georgetown Institute for Environment and Sustainability.
All right, you can hear me and see the screen? All right, thank you very much, Rob. So I'm so excited to be here and get to talk about our program. So Georgetown has a number of different programs in sustainability, both in the law school. We also are just starting one this year in policy and sustainability. And this program, I'm the program director for, which is the Master of Science, Environment and Sustainability Management. So while we're expanding out the holdings at Georgetown in sustainability, including an undergraduate degree in this, this program, one of the things we think is special about it is that it is a 50-50 split, meaning that it is half science and half business. And really just had that belief that when you look at it, we want the interdisciplinary education. We want to make sure there's skill and career outcomes that are tied to it with career basically career folks that are dedicated to this program, as well as being able to provide our students with Washington access. This past fall, we had Ramon Mendez come in and talk about how you get to 98% renewable energy in Uruguay in 5 years. So that idea of looking at the science piece, the engineering, the implementation, also the business side, the return on investment, the policy that needed to happen, those are things that we prioritize as really this idea of the interdisciplinary need. So if you look at our curriculum, we do have mods. So some of our courses are 1.5, some of them are 3 credit, but it is a mix of science-based as well as data and business. So they will get accounting, finance, supply chain. They'll get the business of sustainable energy as well as economics. They're also going to get environmental science, natural and human interactions, earth systems, scientific measurement, R, database management, storytelling with data. And we believe that all comes together then in our capstones. And the capstones are where we work with the groups to have that experiential learning and to be able to have 5 to 6 student groups. Let me rephrase it, 5 to 6 students in groups. There are usually about 7 to 11 different capstones that give them practical experience with Amazon, Starbucks, Blommer Chocolates, which is wholesale chocolate for fine chocolates, Estee Lauder. We've got 2 projects with them right now. One is looking at the feasibility of compostable packaging, another one reusable containers, and what the options are for these. Another program is looking for the capstone is working with a chemical company to do the scope 3 emissions and calculate those. So those students will be certified in the greenhouse gas protocol, or those scope 3 emissions. So when we looked at the program and put all these things together, we've only in our 3rd class. So we're right now accepting for our 3rd class. So we've got 2 cohorts, one that graduated, one that is obviously going through the program right now. So it's a newer program. And for the 1st class, we have about an average of 88,000. Median is also 88,000, a little bit difference in change there. And about 81% of our students were placed. So we've definitely made it a priority to set our students up for success, make sure they can come out of the program and be successful and be able to celebrate it, because we know there's more demand. The great news is all the programs talking today, there's plenty of demand for all of them because we know the job growth is in this area. So I could talk a lot longer and geek out about different pieces of it. A little bit about my background. So I teach in the program, in the beginning of the program, in the science and business course, where I focus on the business application side, environment, business, and sustainability management. I also run the capstone projects as the program director and then work on the leadership communication piece. So as we go through our process, they get to deal with me at different areas, along with wonderful admissions program manager who actually came out of Michigan, and then our dedicated career folks. So we're very happy with what the program is developing into, and we are also excited to hear about these other programs other folks have.
Thank you for that. And last but not the least, we have Katie Fraioli, who is a graduate program coordinator from University of Vermont, representing Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources.
All right. Can you all still see my screen? Hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right. So great to be here, to hear from colleagues in this same space on what their programs are like. Interesting to hear the overlaps there. My name is Katie Fraioli. I use she, her pronouns, and I am our graduate program coordinator at the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources at the University of Vermont, located up in Burlington, Vermont. So like some other folks, just going to go through a bit about what our specific school is like, what our programs are, and then just some broader tips and best practices that I have to offer for students looking for grad programs in this area. So our school, something that's really unique about us, or maybe not so unique after hearing from a lot of you all, we have a really multi and interdisciplinary approach because our school, as the kind of largest center for studying the environment at the University of Vermont, does not have departments. So we are just one kind of big conglomerate school of everything from everything on the screen here. So from forestry, fisheries science to ecological economics and environmental policy. All of our faculty across disciplines are housed in the same academic space, which creates a really unique learning environment that kind of shows up for students in the way that faculty are applying for grants as groups and having kind of multidisciplinary approaches and lenses and objectives of those projects. Students also just really have easy access to those multiple ways of knowing while they're here, whether it's through seminars, courses that faculty are co-teaching, or just kind of running into folks in this shared space in our school. And all these kind of areas of focus and kind of broad fields show up in what our students are doing across what kind of seem like broad degree titles. So our main programs are MS and PhD in natural resources, but within that, again, is that broad scope of everything from ecosystem ecology to environmental thought and culture. So really hard sciences to more social science lens of studying environmental problem solving. On the screen are just a few more details on kind of the broad scope and formatting of those programs. One thing I'll just point out is that we only have 2 required courses across both of these that our students are taking with a real focus on cohort building. So those are within your first year and really focus on where we can find synergies across students that are studying so many varied things in their research. So areas of discussions on sustainability, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the environmental space, establishing kind of a connection to place with where we're located in Vermont, scientific inquiry more broadly and ethics there. So those broader conversations that students can kind of have across one another, across disciplines is really special. And then the rest of our curriculum is really student and advisor driven. So students are able to take any grad courses across the University of Vermont that really fit their specific needs of their research and skill areas that they might need to conduct that research. So whether it's in our statistics department or community development courses, plant and soil science, biology, whatever it is, there's a lot of collaboration across the university in that sense. And our students really appreciate that flexibility in our curriculum. And finally, just some kind of broader best practices that I personally have to offer working with students in this space the past few years and just what I've encountered. So first, communicating intentionally, as I believe some of my colleagues had said in terms of reaching out to faculty, doing that after doing your research, not just sending the same email to 30 different faculty members, hoping for the best, really taking your time to tailor your communication, learn about their work and research, explain why it's of interest to you, and hit on why you and your experiences and expertise in particular would be an asset to that faculty member on the project they're recruiting for, the program overall, things like that. So taking that time will go a long way in terms of what you're hearing back and who you're hearing back from. Consider location. By that, I mean, considering where the schools you're looking at are physically located. That's going to, especially if you're doing kind of field-based research and depending on the kind of scope of the program and where their connections are, can have a lot of influence on what your research opportunities are. In Vermont, we're lucky to have Lake Champlain right here. Mountains easily accessible as well. So a lot of varied landscapes for students to do fieldwork in. We're also a public land grant institution, so that impacts a lot of our work being really community driven with a lot of state and federal partnerships, creating connections there for students job-wise, but also in terms of collaborations and education they can have working with community partners. So just a note on that. You're also going to be spending 2 to 4+ years in this space and environment. So really considering that as a person, as well as in terms of your research and academic life as well. And finally, connecting with grads and faculty. By this, I not only mean in whatever prospective university you might be looking at, if you have a chance to chat with current grad students and faculty of interest there, of course, do that. But also wherever you're at currently, taking advantage of those connections while you're still a student. It's easier than you think to just connect with whether it's a grad TA that you have in your class, a faculty member you've had a few courses with, or that you know is doing research in an area you're super passionate about and want to pursue in the future. Taking the time to find those connections and make the most of them while you're still in that same space together and have that common ground will go a long way in kind of getting your feet wet in what grad school can look like, understanding their pathway to that field and being an expert in that field, and just kind of help inform more broadly what those pathways are as you're starting this search process. Because as I've kind of learned listening from all of you, there's a lot of varied programs with their own kind of areas of expertise and niche. So learning as much as you can before settling down and applying is always super helpful. I will leave it there and we can open it up for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we're open for questions, but I'm going to, if that's okay to put you on spot, Professor Elgar, I do see you here. If you can discuss the Worcester Polytechnic program on community adaptation, because that's novel and I think students might appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, Nirav. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes just to tell you a little bit about our new program at Worcester Polytechnic Institute called the Community Climate Adaptation Program. It's just a couple of years old. It's small. It is small program. WPI is a STEM-based institution. It emphasizes, it's mostly engineering, robotics, computer science are our big majors. But it very much is an institution that emphasizes technology in society. And so we have also, a huge humanities and arts and social science component to the undergraduate STEM education. And that we've kind of mirrored in our master's degree in community climate adaptation. It's an 18-month program, and it's a joint program between my department, Integrative and Global Studies in the Global School, and Civil and Environmental Engineering. And so it's sort of very much mirrors and reflects this idea that, we need to understand technology, but we need to understand technology in the context of society and global society and global communities. And so, so the program it spans these two departments. There's required courses in both integrative and global studies and civil and environmental engineering. And the idea is to bring together the technical and social aspects of climate adaptation with an emphasis on community engagement. So another feature of WPI that is benefiting our master's programs is our network of over 50 project centers all over the world, where we send students to engage in graduate requirements in programs and projects with community-based sponsors. And we're using this network to help our graduate students in our graduate programs also find projects globally to to engage in sort of project-based learning. So these are not so much internships or internships with organizations, they're whole projects that the students engage with community partners. So part of our master's degree is a graduate qualifying project, which is between a 2-month and a 4-month project. Right now, we have students in the field in the U.S. Virgin Islands doing research on local community climate adaptation. We have students in Puerto Rico, for example, and we have students here. And I should mention, we're located in Worcester, Massachusetts, about 35 miles away from Boston. And so we have students actually working on their climate adaptation projects right here in Worcester also. So thanks for the opportunity to give a little bit of an idea of what we're doing. And next year I'll bring a presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time and the dedication. I do have a direct question from a student. I will let the student reveal their identity if they wish to for a follow-up, but the question is pretty profound, in my opinion. I'm going to just read it out loud. I'm currently a sophomore environmental studies major in a small private liberal arts school. I feel like there's not enough hard skills being taught in the major: data analysis, research methodology, information technologies, etc. Is this an aspect that could be emphasized or explored more through the environmental master's program? And I guess I'll have the panelists just speak up.
I think the simple answer is yes. You could always get those skills as a master's student. If you're a sophomore now, though, I would encourage you to get those skills in your electives as well. You don't need to in order to get to most of these master's programs, but I think it's fantastic to get some coding skills and some data analysis skills if you still have 2 full years of schooling. And that could be as a minor, that could be as a certificate, or that just could be as a couple of electives, open electives. Most of the intro classes will allow you to do that. So that'd be my 2 cents.
I totally agree with Matt. We're doing R in data analytics and storytelling with data, but some of our students in the capstone are learning additional data analytics, data visualization skills. We provide them with ThinkCell and an ESG investing certificate from Bloomberg. that the students can do, but it's an optional in. But if I were a sophomore, I agree with Matt, there are opportunities to do some data analytics and statistical analysis classes that will serve you well in pretty much all aspects of sustainability. I would guess if you went to almost any of our programs. We definitely value seeing that if you're applying to Georgetown. So obviously we teach it as well. So some of our students were helping other students outside of class catch on because we have a cohort model, but it's definitely something that, GIS, I'm looking at that as one of the post question too. We don't focus on GIS, but we have professors that specialize in it. So it will be something some of our students will develop during capstone time.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Nirav, I just wanted to add, and this is related to that GIS question. What I strongly encourage all the students to do is really start looking at the job boards now for your like dream job, and look at what the skills they're asking for. And that's what I encourage all of my early students to do is, if I want to be a resource manager at a nonprofit and they're asking for database and GIS skills, those are the classes I'm going to take. If they're asking for plan identification skills, then those are the classes you need to take. So look at your dream jobs now, and even though you can't apply yet, probably you at least can go get the skills that will allow you to apply in a couple of years.
We have one more direct message question, and I'm just gonna type it in the chat as well, so all of you can read it, and I'll speak up as well. The student is focused on management and policy track, and is trying to gain more practical experience for internships rather than having extensive research. They're curious if this would affect their application to any of your schools. I think you're all R1 schools, research heavy, so that's a great question. Melanie, go ahead. You had your hand up.
Yeah, actually for our EPP track, which is our environmental policy specialization, our coordinators and our faculty prefer to see students that come in with actual work experience over research experience. So it's actually prioritized over students that are coming straight from an undergraduate program. We actually want to see them out in the field for 1 to 5 years. So the age for those students actually is a little bit higher, but that's actually more important on our side than research.
Same at Georgetown. We've got a policy master's, and then we've got students. We're prioritizing experience. On average, 2 to 4 years is what we're typically seeing, but we're definitely interested in students that have done some really cool internships. We have one just applied, got it with a internship to the EPA and to a renewable energy company. So those stand out. Earlier, some folks talked about it at Georgetown. We obviously want to see the grades, want to see the passion, but we're looking for people we believe will make an impact in the world. And that's like that has value for us.
There's one more open question, I think. For careers in urban ecology, how important is it? It's the age-old question. Should I do master's or PhD? Why not?
Yeah, just in terms of the job security question, I think that, an MS versus a PhD doesn't necessarily equate to better job security in that field later on. It may open some, like a PhD might open some opportunities these days because there are so many PhDs. But I'd be interested in hearing other panelists. I don't think a PhD opens as many more opportunities as a good master's with some real solid experience. And I think really, and that's the same thing we were answering to the last question, is like having good experience is much more important than having gone to school for 7 years. Says somebody who went to school for 7 years.
As a recovering PhD student myself, now professor, but in my mind, I agree. If you work worldwide, I think a master's in experience will get you where you need to go, unless you have something very specific in mind. If you want to work at a think tank, if you want to do research, if you want to be the subject matter expert on something very specific, a PhD would be the way to go. Otherwise, I think you can probably accomplish your dreams without having to go down that path, unless you just love it. I mean, if most PhDs we love to read, we love to learn, we love to pick up, content, share it, research it, or teach it. So if that's resonating, that's a path. But otherwise, yeah, I totally agree with Matt. Just the master's will get you where you want to go with that experience and hard work.
Thank you. There's one more direct message question. Again, I think it's a very common question. I've been unsuccessful in my first application round. If I'm trying again for one of your schools or any other school, what would I do to boost my application? That's the extent of information I have about the candidate.
On the admission side, I would just say if you are trying to get into a program, you can reach out to your admissions teams and ask why. That's probably what you'd want to do first, because they're going to be pretty transparent and say what it was that's holding you back and where you're at in the list, right? It might just be that there were just so many qualified applicants and, try again next year, or there may be something that's critically missing. So before you go all the way down the path and saying, I want to apply again, if there's something critically missing, you'd want to reach out and actually ask for that feedback. And there's no harm in doing that.
A second Melanie's statement, just as a professor who goes through applications, there are candidates that have high GPAs that we reject because they say they want to do something that we don't do in our department. And they might be flexible. That student might be interested in something that the other professors do, but they're like, I want to do ag. We don't do ag, so we rejected you. If you don't reach out and ask why, then you won't know. So that's what I would recommend as well.
Mm-hmm. Something just to add to that. I mean, certainly we don't know, with this person, but we have, to Matt's point, brought in people with lower GPAs because they told the story of why something was lower on their GPA. And so they might be more considered because they've explained it. Also, we've had students that have great GPAs, great experience, but used the wrong name in the program or discussed it so generically, it felt like we were just one of 10 applications, which meant we weren't convinced they wanted our program with the way we do it in a cohort model and half business, half science. So if we don't think that's really what you want to sign up for, you're just kind of doing all things sustainability, that isn't going to get you as far. So not knowing what the application reads like, having a good look at your application and making sure you're making it clear you want Michigan's program or you want, someone's program. I think that's a big piece of getting truly evaluated by an organization. I won't speak for anyone else, but that's something we'd certainly look at.
One other thing, just if it is a matter of applying to work with a specific faculty member or a specific few number of faculty, not losing those connections, especially if you've already started having those conversations with them on potentially working under their advisement. It might be a matter of there wasn't enough funding this year and that project that you wanted to work on didn't work out. But continuing to let them know that you're still interested is helpful on their end. I know a lot of faculty would kind of keep a bank of, oh, okay, if this funding project comes through, like I know who exactly who to reach out to. So sometimes it's really not you and just a matter of circumstance. So not losing hope in that sense and continuing to reach out and make sure those faculty know that you are still interested can go a long way with them also reaching out to you down the line.
If folks have more questions, feel free. About the admissions, this is a long time ago from my graduate school applications, and I can only speak for Cornell. They required me to kind of check off, would I be willing to accept without funding, 50% funding, or, it was like a mind game, I would say, because at that point I'm like, I just want to get in. But does that still exist? If so, how does one go about that decision tree?
Well, I know we definitely don't do it that way. It is more merit aid, and that's the way we approach it. And then there are scholarships and other things that can qualify in different areas. But yeah, there is no, you have to commit to a certain amount to get the offer. We definitely put out offers and someone goes somewhere else because there's more funding somewhere else. So we know that's part of the process, at least at Georgetown.
We do ask in our general application what financial hardship a student had in their undergraduate pathway, because that gives us a good picture as to what we're looking at. And same thing, I think Katie, you mentioned too, if a student needs 100% funding and we know that we can't do that, you might get turned away because of that. But for the most part, we would put offers out without, and then we let students come to us that say like, I really can't do this. This is what I'm looking for. Sometimes it's good to be transparent and just ask. That way we can tell you how realistic it is to get you to where you need to be, whether that's 100% of the way, 50% of the way, or what. But we just ask in the general application and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general for students thinking about grad school, this is an important thing to ask ahead of time. And, you know, it used to be that there used to be many MS programs that were fully funded. That is less the case these days. So be aware of that. I think most PhD programs are still, or most are still funded. But you should definitely be reaching out to whoever is the contact to ask ahead of time. And Nirav, that question for you, that sounds crazy. I can't imagine asking students to do that, or prospective students to do that. And I think it would be, yeah, I would not want to see that.
I have to say that was a while ago, so I hope they've changed. They would not be happy me kind of publicly saying this, which is being recorded. I'm a good alum. Well, you guys have been far too gracious. I'm going to give everybody like one more count to ask a question, but if not, you've been gracious because I only asked you till 3 o'clock. I asked you last minute. You guys all agreed. I am very, very pleased and thank you. There is a question for everyone if you want to take it.
I think that really depends. So if you're coming into the BA, that really depends on the program you're looking at. Like our program, we have, because we're a combined science and policy program, we have everybody coming in. So, but I know other programs are looking for some background information, so, or background in science and whatnot. But yeah, that's going to drill down into the programs you're interested in.
Yeah, we welcome BAs. We love them. They're great contributors into the cohort model. The only thing with that is we always look for some indicator that you can do quant focused courses. So we'll look for a stat, we'll look for an econ, we'll look for a biology, chemistry, something that indicates it, and that you got a good grade in a quant course, but you don't need to have a BS to be considered. We definitely will welcome a BA and look for it as a valuable thing. We did have one applicant that stood out this year that had no quant classes and acknowledged that on their application. And then we're actually taking an online statistical analysis course and shared that grade with us as a way to say, hey, look, I know I can do this, even though you haven't seen it in my my transcripts. And that really stood out because they recognized we wanted to know they could do it, even though they didn't need a BS to be able to do it.
We see that too. I think you take the essays that you are usually required to do and use that as your vehicle to explain why you're going down this path with the degree that you feel might not fit exactly. I see tons of students that also do Coursera courses to supplement. That goes back to the GIS question too. Maybe you don't have GIS experience, but if you show in your CV that you're doing something, taking a course, supplementing your education, and then you're telling me the story of why this is still a good fit for you, it's not a problem.
Yeah, just agreeing with everyone. Way more about your experience and the skills you're bringing and how you can communicate those than it is about letters on your transcript. So as long as you're feeling confident and able to communicate those, especially if it's for a particular faculty member you're hoping to work with and what they're understanding, what they're seeking as well, in a prospective grad student, you should be fine. My main takeaway from all of this is really knowing what the program you're looking to apply to is expecting, and asking those questions up front so you have a sense and understanding of what each program is like. Because as you're seeing, there are a lot of small nuances and sometimes some differences in terms of what path you're going to take. So that application process, just really asking questions as early as you can, and having a complete understanding of each particular program will really help you along the way.
Okay. I am mindful of time. It is Friday. And thank you so much. I'm deeply grateful. And there was a question asked about the recording. I'm going to talk to our ACE director, Carolyn, and figure out a way to share it. But I do know for all the panelists, we will make it available. I will email it to you. Feel free to share if you need to. And students who registered, they should be getting it. People who are just joining in, because this is an open session, you will have to email AESS, and you can find that on our website. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Nirav, for organizing all this.
Of course, I'm glad I did. Thanks for coming. Hi, everyone. I'm just waiting till everyone leaves. If you have questions, feel free. Okay, I'm closing the session. Thank you.